welcome to this week's edition of our Parresia podcast. That's the American Freedom Alliance podcast. Parresia is Greek for that one bold voice. That is, of course, what we aim to be. We ourselves, but also the guests that we have. And today I'm just delighted to have with me Phelim McAleer and Anne McElhinney, who have been great friends for a long time. They've been associated with the American Freedom Alliance. In fact, they were awarded our Hero of Conscience Award a number of years ago. They were just at our latest gala, being part of the entertainment portion of the evening. And we've had them both speak one time or another because of their courage. They have a podcast, The Scoop, and then they write about the unreported story. They've done films such as FrackNation, My Son Hunter, Gosnell, again, stories that most people are completely unwilling to cover. And most recently, they've been doing verbatim plays, the most recent one, or maybe one of the more recent ones, on October 7th. So tell us how you came to do such a thing, where you've taken it, and what you're doing with it next.
Well, first of all, I want to say I may appear unfocused because there's a rather large raccoon outside my window.
Yes. Yeah, we have a visiting raccoon. It's almost like a wildlife reserve here
in Venice.
I don't know about your American animals, but I think I should be alarmed. And it's during the day. Raccoons are nocturnal, aren't they? Yes. So the world is it's very strange. Maybe the Earth is spinning off its axis or something. Anyway.
So October 7th, yes. how that all came about. I mean, we were in Ireland on October 7th. It just so happened that we were in Ireland on October 7th, 2023. And we were shocked on October 8th to discover that Irish people, many Irish people, were obsessed with a story that we couldn't believe they were talking about. So people were saying to us, "Did you hear? Oh my God, did you hear? They've turned off the electricity in Gaza." People said that to us, and we suddenly realized, oh my God, this story, before people were still being massacred in Israel on October 8th. Mm. And in Ireland, the BBC, the mainstream media that people were consuming in Ireland was telling them to look at something else. That something else was the story, that this was not actually a story at all. So we realized this was something that actually was going to get memory hold, that was going to get forgotten. Immediately, there was an actual effort to deny that it was even happening. So we did something kind of extraordinary in a way, because we had never even been to Israel before. Obviously, we're journalists, and we went to Israel. We thought, you know what? We're going to record the voices of the people who went through this nightmare scenario, that survived this nightmare, that rescued other people. We're going to faithfully record them, and we're going to create a play that just has the words of those incredible people telling the story that so many people didn't want told.
Let me just say, though, when they were talking about Gaza, it wasn't just they were memory holding what had happened in Israel, but they already in the moment did a full 180-degree inversion. That Correct. Somehow the Gazans are victims of something, most likely the evil Jews, the Israelis. So already that moral inversion, that factual inversion, even while the slaughter was continuing, was occurring.
Yes.
They were flipping the narrative.
Anyone who tells you that these protests are about the genocide in Gaza, no, these protests started on October 8th, before a bullet was fired in Gaza. So these protests, it's really hard to not see them as anything other than the oldest hatred. And the oldest hatred is a very, very interesting thing. I don't pretend to know much about it, because I never knew anything about it growing up, or even coming to America. It was just something that wasn't there. It morphs to meet the moment. If there's a financial crisis, if you look back, if there's a financial crisis, the Jews are too rich. If there's a financial, if there's something else, the Jews are too poor. They're parasites. If something else, the Jews control this and that. It's amazing. It will morph into, the hatred will morph into whatever society is annoyed about at that time. And that's what they start off with wanting to hate the Jews, it seems, and then how can we add our pathologies? So when thousands of Hamas fighters leave from behind a wall and murder and massacre and rape 1,200 men, women, children, and babies, and kidnap 200 of them, this becomes a reason to protest against Israel, which they really mean Jews. I don't pretend to have any explanation for it, really. It's beyond rationality or most coherent thought, but that's what it is. So it's not about, ending the slaughter in Gaza and who said why? I mean, this is a different point, but you can't start a war and then condemn your enemies for fighting back and telling them they have to follow your new rules. You didn't obey the rules when you went and slaughtered men, women, and children, but they have to obey the rules when they fight back. It's a war. Napoleon said, "No battle survives first contact with the enemy." Yeah. In other words, people don't. You have these plans of moving a battalion here and a cavalry here. People don't like being murdered. People tend to fight back, and they tend to fight back in unusual and in interesting ways, and they fight back with all the strength they have because they don't like being wiped out. They don't like being murdered. It's not conducive to well-being, and they will fight back. And you don't get to, once you start that war, you don't get to control how they fight back with you. That's not, sorry. You lost that moral high ground, if you ever had it, when you started the fight.
It's so, you're absolutely right. And what's so peculiar at the same time, well, for one, the Jews, it's the Jews' fault is always the answer, sort of like Jeopardy. Here's the answer. It's the Jews' fault. And then what's the question? Everything, right? That's the way it works. And this notion of, you don't get to make the rules, this idea of proportionality, right? Israel is, the response must be proportional. And yet Hamas, the inhumanity, the slaughter, the barbarity, all of it, everything that you cite, is described as somehow proportional to the evil that Israel has been perpetrating on them, right? So their attacks make perfect sense because the Jews have been awful to them and committing genocide and so on. So Hamas is perfectly justified in doing what they did on October 7th because of the barbarity of Israel, the apartheid state, and so on. So they're allowed, right? But the Jews are not allowed. So this notion of proportionality is, again, also only works one way. And the Jews, Israel is not allowed to fight back to the extent that is required to stop what they're doing and get the hostages back.
Maybe some of your listeners are lawyers, or is proportionality even a legal concept in war?
No.
Certainly it wasn't in the Second World War. Dresden, they destroyed a city and killed, I think, 98,000 people in one night. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There was no, you could say all the Japanese did was bomb Pearl Harbor. 3,000 people were killed, or whatever it was, and a couple of ships were destroyed. And they killed millions of Japanese, and they killed hundreds of thousands in a couple of days with nuclear bombs. That's not proportional. I'm not even. I don't even think I want to go down the proportional road. Who says something should be proportional? That the Hamas killed, they killed 1,200 people. So, by the way, they killed 1,200 people. I would say, I don't know, maybe 100 of those were soldiers or people in uniform. So does that mean that under the law of proportionality, Israel can go in and kill a proportional amount of a proportionate amount of civilians deliberately.
Well, I don't know. You know, I, by the way, when you start talking about maths and start talking about proportionality, I mean, it's been very interesting to me, and I've never had anyone explain it to me why, when they at the beginning, when they were letting out hostages, innocent hostages, children, young people, young women, young men, older people, the number of actual prisoners, Palestinian prisoners, of actual criminals, of actual terrorists, was like 100 times what the number of hostages being released was. So that was some very interesting math right there, you know. So I don't know where this proportionality comes from. And Phelim's right. Yeah. Is that how it works? So yeah, you killed 12 babies. So actually let's line up some babies here. Is that what is being suggested by this madness of proportionality? Because it would be a unique and new concept. You know, completely crazy.
That's a very good point. And that's actually taken. Yeah, so Hamas killed 12 babies. So under the laws of proportionality, Israel can kill 3 times as many. So let's choose the babies. I mean,
let's line them up now. You know,
line them up, and So
this is not
Israel is held to a higher standard. I mean, not a higher. Look, there's that line in Hollywood. You know, the Hollywood likes dead Jews. They don't like live ones, and they don't like live ones fighting back. And, you know, there's people now on the right who are attacking Israel. And it's like, sorry, folks, this is a proxy war, you know, against Islam. And they're doing the dirty work. They're fighting. And if they win there, Europe is turning over. Europe is handing Europe over to the Islamic hordes. And so, by the way, so is America with Mondani and Dearborn and Minneapolis. You know, I mean, my favorite media story of recent years was a story in the Minneapolis Daily News, whatever it was. Oh, we've had this amazing situation. It's 1 in a trillion chance that there have been 17 boys born in a row in the maternity hospital. Isn't that an amazing?
Very unusual. How unusual.
And of course, it's the Somali influx that have sex selectively done abortions to kill baby girls so that only boys called Muhammad can be born. And the media pretended this was some kind of, here's a funny story. It's an actual story of a Muslim takeover and a Muslim culture, extreme Muslim culture, killing baby girls and making sure there are plenty of boys there to continue the jihad. So, you know, this is coming to a town near you. It's certainly coming. It's come to Europe. It's come to Israel. Israel is the only country fighting back. So, the suicidally empathetic media and the Qatari bought off other media and influencers and all the others are attacking Israel for that. I mean, it's nice. I mean, it allows them to combine their anti-Semitism with their suicidal empathy and the left's love of Islam, but it ain't good, and we need to stop it. And it's the right needs to attack the left for doing this, but they also need to get their own house in order too. And I'm talking about you, Tucker Carlson.
Indeed. You were obviously completely aware of the situation of Israel surrounded by nations whose entire raison d'etre is the elimination of Israel and the Jews and Jews globally and the West generally. So you went to so you are obviously aware of that prior to October 7th and 8th, and then you went there. Did you have a plan? Did you know what you were going to be doing?
So before we left, we basically got in touch with everybody we knew who might have some connection with people in Israel on the ground. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of our friends connected us to a rabbi in Ofokim. And we spoke to him before we even left. A wonderful person who actually was so incredibly important to us. And he basically said we had an extraordinary thing that happened here in Ofokim. Ofokim is in the Gaza envelope, you know, just a few miles from Gaza. And they'd had a lot of A lot of people had been killed there, but also there'd been an extraordinary fight back. But he talked about how many people he knew who had died, how many funerals he'd been to. And he said, look, you come to Offakim and I will introduce you to people, particularly when one off-duty police officer who had a gun and who had the most amazing story, and a beautiful family who had hidden under their solar panel, as I made the quite maybe inappropriate joke, was the first time a solar panel was ever useful. And that family, that lovely family, had lost their son, who had managed. They were all escaping out a window, and he was the last, and was killed by Hamas. So we went to Offakim, but other people introduced us. A very good friend of ours introduced us to another lady who lives outside Tel Aviv, Dorit, and she introduced us to a lot of people as well. And it became this. And we also, obviously, we're journalists. This is what we do. So we phoned, we researched online, we got in touch with people, and then we arrived there. And one thing kind of led to another, and we hired a car, we drove down to the border area, and started interviewing people there. And then somebody would say something like, and that guy then came and with his car, and we're like, oh, could we meet them? And it was interesting. I just thought of a story that I thought was interesting. One of the people we interviewed was a girl, a lovely young person who was at the Nova party and survived, and had an amazing story to tell. And she hid for hours and hours, and was scared to put her phone on because there was a whole sense that Hamas might have an ability to locate people through their phones. And she eventually turned the phone on, and whatever. And the boyfriend gave the message to the boyfriend. There was a whole drama with that. But then the boyfriend said to her on the phone, be really careful. Hamas are in the area, and they have white vans that look like ours, and they're posing as IDF. And so be very, very careful. Not long after that, and she had been hiding for a few hours with quite a number of people under a whole big thorn bush situation. And this guy drives up in a white pickup and starts saying names, and they're very Israeli names. And somebody in the group shouts out, I'm here. And she said, shut up. This is probably Hamas. But then the list gets longer and longer, and she realizes he's actually got the names of everybody that's there, and he's actually a good guy. And his name was Leon from Gadara. He's very famous. People can look him up. A lot of people maybe listening to this know who Leon from Gadara is. So we interview Shani, this wonderful girl, Shani Arditi, and we interview her about 3 hours, come to the end, and she's telling the story. And by the way, we were breathless throughout. She gets to this moment, and I'm like, oh my God, Leon from Gadara. And she said, he didn't have a weapon, and we all got into the back of this van, and he saved all these people. And I'm like, oh my God. So, and in the way that I've just described it to you, I said, have you talked to him? Because we'd like to talk to Leon. And she went, yeah, on October 8th, he went out with his son to try to save other people. And he saw a car that was wrecked on the side of the road, and he thought, maybe there's somebody here we can help. And he got out, and it was an ambush. And he was shot dead by Hamas, and his son was shot in both his legs. His son has survived. But that I suppose the reason I tell that is because that was October 8th. And this is exactly when we were in Ireland, and people were saying to us, oh, they turned the electricity off. While this wonderful, wonderful man, Leon, famous Leon from Gadara, was shot dead by Hamas on October 8th.
Uh-huh.
But Shani, and just to finish that, Shani, by the way, when we had the show on in New York, it was the actress who played Shani was absolutely amazing, and all the subsequent actors, by the way, who have played the role of Shani have been fantastic, especially the girl who was in Bowden just now. But we did a surprise because she's just a great girl, whatever, and we did a surprise because we brought Shani from Israel. And she came out of the audience at the end, and we said, we have a little bit of a surprise here.
Goodness.
Karen, you were asking, what was our plan? We always intended to do a verbatim play of these interviews. And that was our plan going out. We've done verbatim plays before, as you know. We've done the series from, Ferguson. We did Ferguson, the play, based on the grand jury transcripts. It was so controversial in LA that 9 of the actors walked out during rehearsals because they couldn't handle the truth. We did from the sublime to the ridiculous. We did FBI lovebird, the covers, the text messages of Struck and Page as they had an embarrassing office affair, whilst trying to bring down the campaign and the government of President Donald J. Trump in the first term. So that was funny. Look, it's verbatim. Verbatim theater is and verbatim drama it's very, very interesting. People, when you go to the theater, I always find people are sitting back listening to what the writer is saying, but when it's verbatim, they're leaning forward because every word that they're hearing is like, wow, this is an actual word said by a real person. This is, I want to hear, I don't want to miss a word. So it's a different audience. It's a different, they feel it in their heart. It's immersive. It's moving. Every story.
Yeah. And it's not that thing. It's not based on, it's actually what happened. And you realize, oh my God, that happened. That's what she said. That's what she thought.
So you put together the play October 7th, and you premiered it in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember you came to Los Angeles. You did it at UCLA under heavy security.
Yeah.
It was very intense. It's kind of shocking they allowed it at all. I was at the UCLA one. It was a packed theater. It was deeply moving. What was the response you got from UCLA aside from threats and needing to be secure?
It's very. I think UCLA. I think it was booked by someone who didn't realize the person who booked it sent in the application. Someone just okayed it because they didn't really read it. I think if UCLA had read it, they would have invented some leaks in the office that meant they couldn't rent the theater on that night or something. You also have to remember that the world had changed at that stage. That UCLA was getting incredible. The world was changing. UCLA was getting incredible blowback for the anti-Semitic encampments that were allowed and encouraged by some members of staff. So they were going, we need to do something to show, we're not that bad, really. Well, when they were. So there was that there. But I mean, you said it yourself, Anne, it was depressing to see the security.
Yeah, I thought nothing prepared me for it. I remember arriving that evening, and I thought I was going to cry because I thought, are we in a war zone here? There were helicopters, there were drones, there was about 100 police officers, plus there was campus security, there was 2 forms of airport security, and they had the bomb sniffing dogs went through the theater twice on the day. And I'm thinking, this is Los Angeles. I don't know if Los Angeles is the 2nd or the 3rd largest Jewish city in the world, but it's somewhere up in the top 5. And I thought, and by the way, I think UCLA has also benefited greatly from the largesse of many, many Jewish donors. And I just thought, how shameless, how shameful to witness this. And that this is how a play, by the way, which just has the words of people telling what they experienced on the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. This is how this has to be treated here. And it's almost like there's a chilling effect as well. It's like, well, you really don't want to be doing this, by the way, because this is what's going to happen every time you try and do this. But we have not allowed that to stop us. We went to Princeton after that. And as you know, we went to Bowdoin, and we are not finished. We're not ready to maybe make our next announcement film, but we have some exciting news about our next, where we're going next.
Talk about
We cannot talk about yet. No, sir.
But we went to,
all right.
Yes, we went to Bowdoin College, Maine, which was the alma mater of one Zoran Mamdani.
Correct.
When you see this, maybe the next mayor of New York. I don't know when this is going out, but that's very interesting. It's coming in the future.
It has the distinction as well. He while he was there, he took his time to set up Students for Justice in Palestine on the campus, which I believe may still exist.
Well, that is the mission. But let me just add, though, that the play, so that you needed all the security for, to protect you and us, and because you inspire or incite violence, the play itself, as I recall, was full of sorrow and gentleness and stories of kindness to people and superhuman undertakings to save people. And again, family sorrow, so much sorrow. I don't even remember particularly there being rage. These were victims of this most barbaric attack. And then when you hear about what happened at UCLA, even October 7th, 8th, 9th, all the Students for Justice in Palestine, just a bunch of nonsense words strung together, all the rioting that had happened there. If more people were aware of the story that you tell, this unreported story, and this is why you do this. People need to know which side is the side of love and kindness and gentleness.
It changes, exactly right, Karen. It changes everything. That's why people need to know this story, need to know these stories. You're exactly right. It just reminds me of a very quick anecdote. I was a very liberal in my thinking until the first story that I ever covered, I think, as a journalist was about, we made a documentary called Mind Your Own Business. We went to a mining town in Romania, and we were like, oh, the environmentalists, they're just taking care of the people and they don't want pollution or whatever. And then we went there, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but very quickly realized we were on the wrong side, that the side of the environmentalists was the side, they were lying. They lied about everything. And that, in fact, the side of the mining company was the side of good and science, actually, and making things better for people. And the people in the local area were crazy, hoping that the mining company would get to go ahead. And suddenly we come down a mountain. We went up a mountain one way and came down, and it was like, okay, I see it all now. And I think with October 7th, it's very much the same. That's why this story needs to be seen and heard in the biggest possible venue in every sense of the word. So that's kind of where we're very focused now.
And the belly of the beast is, of course, the universities, because that's where all this is fomented. And I love that you went to Bowdoin. It's off the beaten track, of course, and it's this utterly bucolic campus in bucolic, Maine. But that it's from Tommy's alma mater is just singularly, you just got to get right in there. And
that's what we do.
And what was the response in Bowdoin?
It was unbelievable. It was absolutely, I don't know, Philip. For me, it was one of the most powerful performances I've ever seen. Like, we had a different cast. We had some of the original cast, but we had a lot of new people. And it was very, very, the audience were just very, very moved by everything. It was very powerful. We were so glad to be there. It was great.
Yeah.
Need to do it more. Need to do it everywhere.
Funny, the 6 weeks it was on 6 weeks off Broadway in New York, and that came with sound effects and lighting and action and drama and
costumes.
It felt very immersive. It felt it's like you were in the middle of it.
There. Yeah.
The staged reading at Bowdoin was just. Not just, but it was, just the stories, just the testimony, just with these brilliant actors, almost minimal drama, some drama. And it was almost more powerful because it was just the stories.
Right.
It was less distraction. It wasn't as immersive, but it got you in a different way. So it's very, very interesting to see all the different ways you can tell these stories, bring the truth to people, and powerfully hit them where it hurts, where it makes a difference, where it moves them, where it makes them think.
It's the truth, though. You're not right. These are their words, their experience. It's the truth. And the UCLA one was also not embellished at all. It was the word, and that was that. Very simple, very minimalist, and, as you say, incredibly powerful without the distractions. And this is, to me, what you both are known for, is going after, again, those stories that are completely counter to the narrative that's the preferred one. It's the dominant one. It's the ones that people invest trillions of dollars in. You have behind you FrackNation, that I think you did to counterbalance, what was it, Gasland?
Gasland.
Right? There was, I remember it was at every university. Gasland was everywhere. And so it's
and the high schools. Yeah.
And the high school. Crucial to tell the true narrative. That was about energy and communities. But this is, October 7th it's an existential issue, not only for Israel, but for the West, it seems.
Yes.
So I know you can't say where you're planning next, but
go on. Sorry, Karen.
Go ahead.
It's been an existential moment for a lot of Jewish people. I think. I mean, we've had a lot of experiences of people who've, people we know, who have been very liberal and whatever, and have really had to reassess everything about the whole life. And it's been, I mean, because Phelim talked about, we didn't know anything about anti-Semitism because, in our lives, but a lot of Jewish people didn't know anything about anti-Semitism. We've certainly met people, not young people either, who have never known this. And it's been absolutely shocking to them. And we've had such poignant stories. Sometimes I think we should write these stories down. Like, I'm just thinking of one friend who wouldn't be religious, but is Jewish, has a Jewish identity, and was so lost, and a woman of, in my age, not a youngster, and was so lost by what had happened, and felt so alienated from the very progressives that she has felt comfortable with for years. She's in the Sierra Club. She's a, Greenpeace, all of that, kind of person, and a really, really good person. And came, and actually, this is a very sad story. Actually came to me and said, look, I hear you go to a Shabbat dinner in Santa Monica. Would you ask them if I could come and be with you guys? And it was very powerful because, and actually even to make it even more upsetting, if I'm going to get you crying now, Karen, it's the Shabbat dinner with Dennis Prager, and Dennis was there, that night, and she was able to talk to him. And I remember she held his hand. She was so moved by the fact that she was able to get to talk with Dennis, so we're very sorry about Dennis.
Yes. Everything to do with Dennis, except for one piece, if I can add this, his passion for life and appreciation for what he can continue to do,
Yes.
is so extraordinary. You guys had mentioned on a recent podcast, he had an interview with someone who said he's a quadriplegic, he has no will to live, and Dennis said he got angry.
Yes.
As long as you have purpose and make a difference, just stop. And right, it's extraordinary. So the lessons that we still can learn from Dennis Prager are
and I believe he has a book, and I believe he has a book coming out soon. So that's so great. It's so great. Of course he does.
So that's what he does, and it continues to inspire out of such a monumental tragedy. But just back to October 7th and how it really catalyzed a lot of things for a lot of people, not only the event, but the play and the work that you do. Yes, it seems that it got a lot of people to tap into their own identity, which is a marvelous thing. The fact of the hostages, that brought out, I knew people for still up until 2 weeks ago, their every waking moment was consumed.
Yes.
About the hostage.
Yeah, and I recently, someone I know, a journalist actually, she's really, she's, I saw her post and she was describing how she felt, and trauma is a much overused word, and PTSD is a much overused word. Yeah. This journalist is in that world. She was based in New York. And, I'm reading what she's written after the hostage is released and how she feels. And I am saying, you've been through a trauma. You've been punched at, spat at, attacked. Both, you've been attacked by other journalists. You've lost your friends. Your friends haven't written to you. Your friends have liked pro-Palestine and pro-Hamas stuff. You thought you knew your friends. Your world has just been pulled from underneath you. You are suffering from some kind of PTSD, and you need to recognize that. And as you say, they're being totally consumed by this. And funny, there was a certain element of how can two Irish people go to Israel and try and tell Israel's story at this time? And actually,
Irish Catholics, by the way.
Yes. The question is, when we realized actually nobody else could do it, or certainly it was too close for so many Israelis. It was too close for so many Jewish people. They would either not be able to handle it, or they would want to change the stories to reflect, to make the Israelis nicer, or to make them angry, or whatever whatever they were feeling, mostly to make the Israelis nicer, make them more just better people, as opposed to human beings who've been through this enormous. And when you try and make someone a better person, people recognize that there's something missing there, and they don't accept this as a true representation. So we have no skin in the game.
We've no skin in the game, exactly. except for telling the truth. And actually that meant that we were not going to change anything. We were not going to tone people down or make them, we weren't going to do anything like that. If I could tell a quick anecdote, I won't say what show it was, but let's just say I saw a drama about October 7th recently. I was invited to a premiere of that, of a show, and there's been quite a few things made, so it won't be that easily identifiable. And it was a dramatization, and there was a woman dramatized, and the actual woman was in the audience, and she came up and spoke afterwards and was asked, what do you think of the representation of you? And she said, well, I'm not like that. I'm much, much angrier. And I have to say I was angry because I thought you don't have permission to do that. Yeah. This happened, and this is how we feel very, very, very strongly. And we've had the experience ourselves working with different people on the show where people have wanted to change the words and said, "I'll make it a little nicer," or whatever. And we're like, "You have no permission to do that. We have no control over these words. These people, we were given the privilege of recording these people at the worst time in their whole lives, when the worst thing that could have possibly happened to them, and they were good enough to give us their 3 or 4 hours for the interview. And the idea that you would mess with that, it's appalling, by the way, that impulse. But I do think it is an impulse that maybe is understandable if you're very close to the story. We are not close to the story. We're actually, somebody said at Bowden, was I very upset talking to these people? And I said, it didn't happen to me. And the job of the journalist, if you can't handle it, don't do journalism, by the way. You're going to have to report on awful things that happen to people, but it didn't happen to you. And if you have to take everything personally, you're in the wrong job. And I mean, it is these are horrific stories, but I'm not, I'm the one who I feel lucky. We were happy. We were happy in Israel because we loved what we were doing, loved the opportunity to get to meet these unbelievable people, like unbelievable. Not one of them, such different people, and every one of them really extraordinary in their own way. And just it was a joy to actually do that work.
And doing important and purposeful work too is key, I think. Mm-hmm. And so that you're bringing their stories that they trusted you with I can imagine that's a massively fulfilling feeling. Yes. I was going to ask real quickly, I know because I want to go on to the grooming gangs, another fun topic, but before I do, October 7th, Europe is on the verge of being completely lost, or is already completely lost. Major cities, London, Paris, Berlin, Vienna, they've fallen to this unrestricted, unrestrained, open-armed welcoming of the same demographic that wrought this horror. The people who do not believe what we believe and who are willing to stop at nothing. I'm talking about Islam. Is there any interest? Are you at all interested in bringing this to any European city?
Very much so.
Very much so. Starting with Dublin, by the way.
But you'd be very surprised, Karen. They're all booked up. All the venues are booked up, or they're just
very, very busy.
Repairs.
Getting some work done on the roof is going to be. It's very hard to say. Next year, it's very hard. They've got everything. Elephants. They've got all. There's been very bad weather, very good weather, too hot. It's hard. There's something wrong with the computer. I can't see the calendar right now. I honestly am hysterical. But you know what? It's not going to stop us. It's never stopped us before, and it's not going to stop us now. But it is certainly, and it's something that it's kind of one of the hardest parts of our job, I have to say, is just the constant trying to do these extraordinary things. And it is nothing happens overnight. This is thousands and thousands of emails, thousands of phone calls, trying to wear these people down and trying to find a way that we can get around them to get a venue. But we will get a venue, and we would like to start in Dublin, but that's only a start.
And then I imagine even once you have it and have the cast, as you saw in Santa Monica with the other one, there's no guarantee until the very moment of the curtain rising that this is even going to come off, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, listen, this is since we started doing these verbatim plays. I remember when we had Ferguson at the Odyssey in LA, I had people in the audience with a copy of the script ready to go up on stage, in case one of the actors walked off.
Really?
Yes. Oh, no, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely right. A very good friend of ours. No, he wouldn't have liked it, but he's not an actor either. But it was like, no, we were all ready to take the stage ourselves if it came to that, because we thought no matter what happens, we're going to go ahead.
And
it was just the truth. It was just the words from the grand jury, which were very dramatic, of course.
And people simply, so cliche, can't handle the truth. If you have a narrative in your head and something goes against it, it's not tolerable.
No.
Yeah. Stand up. Hands up. Don't shoot. Never happened. Never ever happened. And
never happened.
Never happened. And that's according to the
witnesses. We all know it did. And what was it? The whole cast of the morning shows. They're all
Yeah, and including by the way, U2, Bono. We were, unfortunately, I don't know, somebody gave us free tickets to see Bono, to see U2 when they came to Los Angeles. We're not huge fans, but we went anyway. And it was his world tour. It was their world tour, and the set piece that they had at the very beginning of the show was for him to walk this very, very long runway with his hands up, saying, "Hands up, don't shoot. Hands up, don't shoot. Hands up, don't shoot." That's what Bono said in LA. And it was like, it's a complete lie. And it just shows you that line, a lie can go around the world before it catches up with the truth. I don't know, I've butchered that a little bit. But basically, you had this, it was a complete lie. And he was broadcasting that through his massive platform at every one of his concerts around the world. It's hard to undo that.
And they know it's a lie. They know it's a lie. And they do it anyway, because it's in furtherance of the narrative, of the revolution. Would you ever repeat a thing that somebody told you wasn't true? I can't imagine you ever would.
No. I mean, I don't even know the motivation for that. Sorry, go on, Phil.
People are, we should talk about the grooming gangs now, because, this is another example. And I was given an interview earlier about this because, we did the grooming gangs are the Muslim gangs that were involved in the mass rape of hundreds, actually thousands of young girls, not women, girls in England. And they weren't prosecuted because the police and local authorities were afraid of being called racist. Also, the victims were white girls, so they're the lowest in the identity politics. And then
quite poor girls from deprived backgrounds, very many of them already either in the care system or actually, had been somehow abused previously.
And so we got a hold of a transcript of the judge's sentencing remarks and just reenacted it with a judge, with an actor,
mm-hmm.
Brilliant actor, Dominic Frisby, and it's stunning. And Dominic over the weekend just posted a clip of the worst parts of what these men these animals had done to these young girls. I mean, it's truly horrifying stuff, and it got hundreds of thousands of views, and then Elon Musk retweeted it, and now it has, I think it's almost 3 million views. And that's because there's a hunger for the truth out there. That's called the Grooming Gangs on Trial. You can see it on X or in YouTube.
Or you can go to our website and see the whole thing. Actually, it's on unreportedstoriesociety.com. The full court summary from the judge. And we have to say, and I think it's worth reminding people, Phelim, it is very tough to listen to, but it's just 100% verbatim. And I think sometimes there's hard things you have to do, and listening to it and becoming aware that this happened is very, very important, because perhaps it's coming to a town near you.
Yeah. And what I think is important is to realize a lot of this happened. There was 14 years of a so-called conservative government in the UK, and a lot of the Muslim mass immigration and the Muslim rape gangs and the tolerance of them was under a conservative government. Elon Musk got interested in it a year or two ago, and that really put it back into the public domain. And then the Labour government, the leftist government, was forced to start a national inquiry into it. They then tried to dilute the terms of the inquiry, and a lot of the inquiry team have resigned as a result. But this there was 14 years of a Conservative government. And by the way, it was in their political interest because a lot of these Northern England towns were either ruled by the leftist Labour Party or Islamists. A lot of the mayors were Muslim. So the Conservatives could have made political hay out of this. They didn't. They didn't, because they're the establishment, and they have the same disgust and contempt for the working class that the establishment Republicans had here, by the way. Take your medicine. We're gonna ship your job overseas, but it's called creative destruction. In a couple of generations, your community will be rich again. And it's like, that's not how it should work. You don't ship job overseas to corrupt Chinese manufacturers that's subsidized by the governments, and then get all worried about Trump introducing tariffs on this. So the story of the grooming gangs is a story of the establishment making it happen, allowing it to happen, and then trying to cover up that it happened. We call it the biggest crime in British history that led to the biggest cover up in British history.
To what extent is this? I completely understand. It's the ruling elites of whatever party work together. To what extent is this? Are they afraid of Islam? Are they afraid of Muslim retaliation? Is it the Red-Green Alliance that you say?
Suicidal empathy. It's suicidal empathy,
yeah.
and it's and nonsense like diversity as our strength. And be kind, and multiculturalism. That belief, by the way, that we're all really the same. We all really kind of believe in the same things. Actually, we genuinely don't actually believe the same things. Like, we really, really genuinely don't, and that's not even slightly racist, by the way. That's just actually fact. We just don't. And the question, I suppose, this vast experiment that they tried out in the UK, diversity is our strength, and we all really believe the same thing, and multiculturalism is great. They've had a big run at that experiment, and unfortunately, they're getting the results now in real time. And I mean, it's not like, this is a huge data point, by the way. That's a horrible way to describe it. But these are thousands and thousands and thousands of cases that have been through the courts. That there are, it's not like it's not an opinion here. These courts have heard evidence. We have seen who these guys are. We've seen the faces of these guys. We know what they did. It's a tough lesson, but I don't. Well, part of it. I mean, Mark Stein said, it must be 10 years ago at least, maybe 20 years ago now. He said that the UK, the demographic, there's nothing can be done now. That genie can't be put back in the bottle. But I suppose, I mean, at the very least of times, people need to stop pandering to people with values that are anathema to what used to be the UK experiment, which was this, a civil society, marvelous place to live, free speech and freedom and, women's rights and all that good stuff that's getting rowed back now. But something very rotten has happened. The ideology of be kind, the ideology of diversity, the ideology of multiculturalism is rotten, because it suspends critical thinking, it suspends judgment. And that's what they've done. I mean, the idea that some of these girls, and Phelim, we didn't mention that to Karen, we know some of these girls, two of the most prominent, famous ones, the two Samanthas, and they're like, these are rock stars. These are extraordinary women who went through this unbelievable. One of them, in fact, just recently got the law changed, and your listeners will find this extraordinary. And I wonder what the law in America is, where if you get raped and you get pregnant by a rape, your rapist has parental rights and all kinds of parental rights, and she has managed to row that back. So all of this is now becoming, I think, is now coming to a head in the UK. But the Conservatives are not in a position to say, we're the guys that will sort this all out for you. There doesn't seem to be any. I don't know. It's been a very disappointing and frightening discovery. Yeah, that this naive ideological, religion that they had is nonsense, and that's me being kind and not using bad language, Karen.
Well, also this empathy, this caring, this kindness. Again, just as with, it's 180 degrees from where it should be, right? They've just flipped the whole narrative of who the criminal and who the victim is. Where's the kindness and empathy for the girls, or for their babies, for that matter. If you bring that in, so and Europe has completely capitulated. I remember the rapes, the dozens of rapes New Year's Eve in Bonn, Germany, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the lesson that came from that is girls shouldn't be out. They shouldn't be dressing a certain way, blah, blah, blah. All these things that over the decades we've heard, it's not the girl's fault. You should be able to dress however you want. That just got completely inverted, and in London and Sweden. And so it's this empathy. I'm all for empathy.
Funny, I'm not.
It's for the right people, for heaven's sake.
Honey, I'm not for empathy. I'm against
for more for sympathy. Are you?
Sympathy's okay. Empathy,
Justice.
Look,
truth.
I'm all for a bit of judging.
Truth.
Oh, you're all for a bit of judging. Actually, yeah, a bit of judging. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. Yeah, yeah.
Why should I empathize with you? Empathy. It's like it's not everything deserves empathy.
Oh, I didn't mean for them. I meant for the girls.
No, but even if you
even for the girls,
I think maybe it's the journalist in me, but I think approaching something to say I'm going to empathize with these people, it may not do them. Their parents can empathize with them.
That's not the job. Yeah, it's not the job of the journalist.
Outsiders, we need to give cool, especially journalists. We need to be coolly rational about these things. And people can, after we've published the facts, people can decide whether they want to empathize or not. But I'm going to start an anti-empathy Instagram page.
There you go, Phil.
People who shouldn't empathize. No empathy.
That's what we need. That's what the world needs.
An empathy-free zone right there.
Yes.
Well, and that's such an important point, that objectivity and truth and rationality and critical thinking, as you had mentioned a little bit ago, that is what's key for you to bring us the story so that we can feel how we feel.
Yes.
So that's absolutely right. But to make policy based on empathy for the wrong people, and to have that be your cultural standards and set of morals and mores, that we should have empathy. And same here, obviously, we should have empathy for all the illegals who have been here and not done anything, to make a more legitimate status for themselves and their families. Zero empathy. No, sorry, but that's what we're constantly being asked to have. So the grooming gangs, you're finding them in London. They've been reported on. Now Mom Dami, what do you see? We're recording this a few days before the election.
Yeah. Well, listen, you never know. You can't trust the polls because they're part of the Democratic elite establishment. They get it wrong all the time. But
yes, Phelim, I should, and when as Phelim says that, I should interrupt and say that Phelim has it's kind of disturbing actually, but one of Phelim's favorite things to do is to rewatch the election night coverage of Hillary Clinton, by the way, of the Hillary Clinton Trump for the first term. I swear, I'm not joking. This is what my husband watches, and to agree with his point, to see the faces of the MSNBC hosts at the beginning of the night. There is absolutely no air. There is no space. There is not even the possibility that Hillary Clinton wasn't going to win, to see them crumble, it is actually, it's 6 hours, and I can just tell you that that's who I'm married to. It's quite disturbing, but it's one of his favorite. It's one of his favorite things to do, and he started it again the other night, and I had to object. But the beginning of it is absolutely hysterical. They can't be happy. They're beyond happy, and so basically, it's very much the same point. There was no possibility at all, based on all of their research and all of the work they've done.
Sorry, some men watch porn on their laptop.
That's true. No, I do know that. I do know that. I have
heard that. There's a world out there where that I sit.
Yes. Yes.
Trump.
No, I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed. I am very blessed. This is what you're.
They called Wisconsin, right? That was one of the best moments of that. They called Wisconsin, and just poor John King trying to find a way through to be able to say maybe she's still going to pull it out. So yeah,
fantastic.
no, it's so you're absolutely right. There is hope, and yet we ought not bank on how wrong they often are, but
Yes,
we can
indeed.
still hope, because New York City to fall to Mamdani, who is jihad first, who is Iran first. He's certainly not America or the citizens of New York.
Very,
first.
very, very, very disturbing.
On the other side, I want to thank you so much for taking all this time to share everything that we've shared today with us. AFA, of course, loves you. Our people, they're all.
You're our family, Karen. You really are. And we've always felt that. We've had such a beautiful relationship for so many years.
We always, the first thing when we do something in LA, we say, Karen.
Let's talk to Karen. Let's talk to Karen. We need to see what Karen said. Yeah.
Good. It's marvelous, and we're all in this same fight, and we are. We need to work together. We need each other.
We need each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So thank you so much.
Okay, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.